Just wanted to just say the governor obviously is also a professor and a PhD, so he knows a lot about everything that's going on.
I know a lot about everything.
Yes. And he's done a great job in setting up a new vision, and that's why we're all here. And you'll be inspired by what he has got for Hawaii. And so, with no much further ado, it's Governor Neil Abercrombie.
Oh, thank you, Simon. Thank you, everybody. Please excuse me, my voice sounds a little bit thick. It's because I have a gigantic wad of gauze in my gums right at the moment. I broke a tooth and have a profoundly, deeply respectful new attitude towards the Board of Dental Governors to make sure that when you're in such a situation that you're going to be taken care of. I suppose in some way I could transpose that particular situation I'm experiencing right now to what you're about to do, although I hope it's not that painful for you by the end. It's really fascinating to me. Sonny's kind enough to mention the due date program and so on, and what this transformation and information opportunity is. When I don't know whether he gave you a little bit of history of how we came together here, but I think it's instructive in terms of what you're about to do, because in some respects, actually not in some respects, virtually in every respect, you have an opportunity, and I'm going to say a little bit of an obligation if you've come to do this. I don't suspect anybody here is just going to go through the motions. That's not the reason that you're here. But when Sonny and I first got together, what I said to him, and I think what ultimately in the end attracted him here, was certainly not the what might otherwise seem to be a kind of minor league segment in the overall possibilities for information transformation is taking place in this century. Because he'd been associated with really incredibly complicated, difficult, challenging environments, the FBI and the Defense Department, you name it, the General Services Administration, etc. So why Hawaii? I mean, what possibly could attract him to come 5,000 miles to come to Hawaii? Aside from my effervescent personality and charm and productive capacity to create enormous horizons, it was literally the challenge that we were 3 decades behind, that we had an environment in terms of the capacity to transmit information, perspective, regardless of the technology side of it. A siloed society that was being inundated with more data and knowledge and information than ever before, like much of the rest of the world, and yet the capacity to translate that into knowledge virtually non-existent. There was a human dimension to this, a very human dimension to it, that was being obliterated. I cite as an example, and I cited to him in our first conversation, the circumstance of foster children. I've been a probation officer in my checkered career, and dealing with everything from traffic tickets to murder. And in the course of those events, I became very familiar with what we now call family court and foster children. Part of the challenge and difficulty for a foster child is that he or she is shoved into multiple categories, information silos, data categories, multiple folders, in which that child's human existence disappears. Multiple agencies, individuals, groups, instrumentalities of government and churches and nonprofit organizations and in fact foster parents. That child bounces around and across and in between all of those desperately challenging environments for this child. And yet they have virtually no capacity to talk with one another, let alone exchange anything. They don't know anything about each other. Every time you come in, it's a lot like going to the dentist. And you have to fill out this chart, you see, as to what your difficulties might be. Can you take ibuprofen? No, I can't, as a matter of fact. But haven't I filled out something like everywhere you go, every doctor you see, every medical circumstance you in, haven't I filled this out already? Didn't I do this already? Isn't there a record of me somewhere? Don't I exist? Am I just coming into your view plane for the first time? We had tons of data, acres of data, multitudes of data, piles of data, right? And none of it in a coherent form that could be transposed into anything meaningful in human terms. Personnel. Why do people talk about a bureaucracy and personnel? The human being is lost in it. And we assume that's the way it has to be. And yet, technologically, presumably now, technologically speaking, that shouldn't be. We should be able to transpose, if you will, these mountains of data into a human dimension, a dimension of depth that gives us some understanding of who we are as human beings in a society worthy of the name. So this TIP program is really remarkable, and I want to give Leila and Randy and everyone associated with the nuts and bolts. That's a phrase from the 20th century, by the way, the nuts and bolts of this. For putting it together, because what you have, and this is the burden of my remarks to you, is a remarkable opportunity. You're entering virgin territory. I'm looking around the room, and that's not a shocking term to any of you in here. I can see this is a very sophisticated audience. We don't know where we're going. We'll be asking you. What this really is a trick to get free labor. Is what come right down to it. I mean, it's, I'm trying to put a rather convoluted facade around all of this.
So we told them we're a lord of law.
Yes, right, exactly. This is your. Yes, actually, we're doing you an enormous favor by doing this. And I hope you're properly appreciative. You're not going to go through the motions. Take advantage of this, grab it, and run with it. We're delighted to have you with us. We're hoping that you're going to see some very fine human beings in the course of the activities that you'll be associated with in the days to come. You're going to meet some people who are unsung heroes, in my estimation. I can tell you that. People, for example, that Sonny pointed out to me. I must be very, very nice to. These are state employees who utilize Wayne computers. There are some people say, what's that? They're utilizing Wayne computers. They're, 36 years old now?
Yes, sir, 36.
36 years old. This is what's keeping the state going at the moment. The reason I can't say anything to these people that will, make them feel poor. Who needs you? The reason I am in that position is I need them desperately, because they know where to go on eBay to get the parts for the Wayne computers that nobody else. What is it now? Computer nerds or
Geeks, yeah.
Geeks.
Yes, sir.
They come in the little smart car and
Geek Squad.
it used to be Volkswagen Bugs, but now it's smart cars.
Yes,
and they don't know what to do. They've never seen anything like this, and they have no parts for it. So we actually have people whose claim to fame is that no one can do anything to them because they're the only ones who know how to keep the Wayne computers going. And he could shut government down tomorrow. So I wish I was kidding. But that's an extremis, of course. But what we have here, though, is people who are doing an extraordinary job, particularly on the human level, the interpersonal level of responsibility and obligation that we have, and have been working under the most dire circumstances in terms of the technological capacity, the hardware and the software of it, if you will, that simply has been non-existent. You have an opportunity, and what this program is designed for is to actually encourage you to help us find out what we need to do, where we need to go, what are we doing right, what kind of changes, what kind of suggestions would you make as a result of coming in with fresh eyes, of coming in from a really objective basis. You're not looking to say, what can I find that's wrong? That's easy. We already know all of that. We've spent, 18 months now. It's going on 2 years. Going on 2 years now, working on it. We're ready to take the next steps towards resolving this crisis. It's a crisis for us. It really is. We must yank ourselves into the 21st century. Literally yank ourselves. That's what we're doing right now. That's what we're trying to get to the legislature. We're asking them to spend a lot of money. Have you indicated what it's like a 12-year plan?
Yes, sir. I gave them a general idea. It's a 12-year plan, and we're asking for $60 million this year.
Yeah. No, I'm having trouble. Not trouble. Because we've spent a decade cutting, a decade shaving, a decade laying personnel off, not using much in the way of innovation, just simply shutting things down. And as a result, having some very, very adverse circumstances come into play. Getting rid of agricultural inspectors, for example, so now we have more invasive species difficulties than we've ever had before. I mean, what the hell is the economics of that? That kind of thing. But that's what's been going on. So we're asking for $60 million just to get started, and I'm having an argument with people this afternoon whether you can spend half of that on early childhood development and education. You wouldn't even think that would be an issue. So when we're talking about $60 million, we're serious, and that's our down payment, if you will. We had some starter money, we had some earnest money put in last year, the last 2 years, and now we're down to the serious part. You can aid and abet this. You are not here to go through the motions. This is not a pro forma operation. To the degree or extent any of you think you're going on vacation, get rid of that notion right now. I notice the laughs aren't so hard here right now. But this is a serious business for us. We know you're serious people, and we know that you've got a degree of expertise and some background, and you want to acquire some more. You want to put that to work right now. This is your opportunity, and it's an invitation from us. Take that experience that you have right now and that which you want to acquire, and that judgment which you've able to achieve to this point, and the judgment that you want to be able to make as a result of what you're going to do in these next days. And when at the conclusion, we're hoping that you'll be able to make recommendations and observations to us that we can apply immediately, and we will. We're looking forward to it. I'm certainly looking forward to it. I know you're going to have a great time doing it. I'm going to look forward in turn then to coming in perhaps later on in the process, or maybe halfway through or something, as well as the end, and see what it is that you've been able to conclude, and what you have in the way of proposals and programs and projects for us that we can in turn apply and be able to look back with gratitude to you for the time spent and the effort made I am very much looking forward to that happy conclusion. Thank you very, very much.
Governor, can you ask 1 or 2 questions? I mean, you're talking to the governor of the state of Hawaii. This is your chance.
If you'd care to, that's fine. You don't have to have a question. If you have an observation you'd like me to comment on, I'm pleased to do that too. I've discovered that over time, that a lot of times questions don't really do very much, but sometimes if a commentary based on an observation can be as useful or more so. Anything? You've been bludgeoned into submission?
They were talking, right?
Surely.
Ask a question or observation, anything you can.
I'm a very...
Has there been talks of having red light cameras installed on...
Yes.
There has been? Okay, because I was almost hit today, so...
No, they haven't. That's an interesting phenomenon. When I was in Washington, D.C., in Congress, excuse me, they installed the cameras, and the reaction, the public reaction, is very interesting. Small group dynamics and the sociology of it, as well as the psychology of it, is very, very interesting to me. There's a lot of resentment. It's the government trying to make money, right? And I thought, yes, that's true. Why and how is the government trying to make money? Because you're running red lights. And if you run the light, you have violated the law and you're going to be fined. And what people were upset about, and the same was here in Hawaii, there was a lot of resentment against it. It was experimented with for a few months, I think, at best, yep. Right?
Yes.
And thank you. Excuse me. It's my version of True Blood, and I'm following that. So there's a lot of resistance to it, because people would actually have to stop on a red light, not run it, and or more, they'd have to stop for a pedestrian, which is what the law says they're supposed to do, and otherwise they'd be fined. But so instead of it being seen as a safety issue, it's seen as an intrusion on individual rights, which apparently means to try and run you down.
Yeah.
But people don't see it that way.
It's kind of a loss of aloha.
Yes, I was going to say, the irony of that is, or maybe irony is not exactly the right word, but maybe the sad observation I would make on that is that never would have been an issue 50 years ago. When I first came to Hawaii in 1959, you never heard a horn. Nobody ever beat their horn at somebody else, and everybody always deferred to the other person entering a street or on the highway, and people stopped when they could see people crossing and so on. But part of that is maybe a little bit of loss of aloha, but part of the rest of it is the frenetic nature of society now. Everybody's late, everybody's on the clock. Individualism has become privatism. It's all about you, and you have to get wherever you are, and that's the most important possible thing that could be. The fact that someone's trying to cross in a crosswalk is, if anything, resented. The only thing that's resented more is somebody on a bicycle.
Are there any plans to move to online voting?
If I have my way, there would be. I've got to try and get them to mail in first. We're trying to take baby steps in that regard. I think there'll be a lot more participation if we can do that. Then the mail-in is simply a matter of security of the vote. That again, there is an atmosphere out there. I don't even call it anti-government, because it's not so much against the government. It's that there's no faith that it can be done in the first place. They'd be perfectly content to
But
do
we can
it.
vote electronically.
Yes, of course you can. We do everything else electronically. If you're paying your bills electronically, certainly you can vote. That would solve the whole issue, by the way, of overseas voting too. If it was done electronically, you wouldn't have. Part of the problem that we have with elections now is that you have to allow like 45 days ahead of time to start the so-called early voting, because if people are serving in the military and they're overseas entitled to vote, you have to make enough time to make certain that they can vote. Well, if there's anybody prepared to deal electronically with the world, it's the Pentagon at the present time, and so that's something that I think we should pursue.
Yeah, Sonny mentioned that Hawaii is in the bottom third in regards of technology compared to other states.
In terms of information
Yeah,
technology?
information and technology. Do you have
I didn't know we were that high.
Do you have any, is there a state that you see yourself following the steps, or?
No, not really.
Where is that you want to take the state to in regards of technology?
I want to, one part of the advantage of being on the bottom is you don't have to chase anything. I'm serious, you can say, what's the top of the line? Where do we go? Let's not fool around, let's try and get whatever needs to be done right, and pick up from other people's mistakes. And I said there's no other state we're following while I'm driving at is that we know now what everybody else had to go through in different contexts. So there's no need to repeat mistakes and so on. We should just learn from it, and then I think we're just, maybe the best way I should have answered you saying we're going to draw from wherever it seems suitable and possible.
If I would just mention one thing, Governor, I just mentioned to them that we just got news yesterday that our plan that we published on the government leadership, business and IT plan has been voted the best, and we just got a Federal 100 award. We were the only state in the union to be recognized for the award in the first
I hadn't known that, but
so
that's great.
Just let me know. That's
Part of that for me, Randy. Thank you very much. Mahalo. Thank you. That's part of the advantage of being in the position we were. We could really put together a super plan because we didn't have to take much into account in terms of legacy systems and so on and all that, because we don't have anything that we can really. I don't think we have anything that we can. How many systems do you have altogether?
Sir, so far 743, but the confessions are still coming in every day. So,
there's like 700 systems. When I say systems, I don't want to be a smart aleck about it, but there's multiple. Yeah, everything's been jerry-rigged. Everything's been jerry-rigged, and it wasn't because people didn't care, or everything at the time seemed as best they could do. The best they could do with what they had. And there wasn't a recognition that there was going to have to be a genuine game plan. The idea was, mostly, not everybody's really young in the room, there's some that aren't, but because this revolution in technology and information sharing is so new and on the scale of time. The assumption, even when I first got started in the legislature in the 1970s, with the systems we had then was, well, there was IBM made computers, or they made mainframes and all this kind of stuff, and then computers came in. And what you do is you go to an outfit and you buy something, and then you put it in, and they gave you the little thing about how to do it, and that was it. That's all you had to do, and it all somehow worked together. And of course, that was a very naive way of looking at things, and it was also, from a commercial standpoint, a good thing to try and sell people. But it was a kind of technological snake oil that got sold, that there were some off-the-shelf opportunities, not really too much, kind of a modular approach to things. Buy all our computers from the state, put $10 million into this, and we'll give you a program, and it'll all work. I was naive enough to think at that time, because I wasn't sufficiently technologically akamai aware of it, I essentially rewrote the law on child support and put it in the Attorney General's office. Because I thought, well, that's great. Because I've been a probation officer in my life, and I said, we'll put it in the Attorney General's office, we'll have the investigators, get the computers, we'll put all this stuff online didn't exist then. But we'll computerize all this stuff, and we'll get the checks, we see where they go, and we do the whole thing and get the paychecks and pull them up. Well, it didn't work that way at all. They're still screwing around with it. And what they ended up doing is the same way they always did it. They put it by hand, they made cards, they put it in files, and probation officers had to hunt people down and all the rest of it. It didn't work that way at all. That's why what we're doing here is that I need to get the technology up. The law is very progressive. The technology simply didn't do the job. We got sold a bill of goods. We sold ourselves a bill of goods.
Governor, is there, you may have already answered this, but is there any particular information technology aspect that you've got heartburn over right now that you would see for the interns as just you would love to see it solved sooner than later?
No, literally no, because the whole thing is, really, we have to take a look at the entire picture. Virtually anywhere you stick your finger in, you're going to find something worth pursuing. And almost anywhere you take a look, you're going to see instantaneously opportunities to start working horizontally. You're going to see, to the degree we have anything at all, it's all vertical. It's multiple vertical silos. The usual cliches apply across the board here. And what we need to do is work horizontally and really stitch it together. I always use the foster kids as an example because you can get a chart very, very quickly where foster children are concerned that will probably involve more than half a dozen agencies, divisions, and groups.
Governor, we said that it's a target-rich environment, but we also said that this is a great challenge and an opportunity for you to serve the citizens of Hawaii.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. In this public service, I think, Governor, you would agree, this is the opportunity that they have.
Yes.
Which is just
One of the reasons I wanted to be here today, I did not want anybody to leave today thinking that this would be an interesting sidelight in your life. Or could be an interesting sidelight in your life. We welcome you and we invite you to put your best efforts forward to see if you can make a real contribution to this really massive effort that we're trying to undertake. And yes.
Governor, Sunny brought up the spirit of aloha, and I think it's important in Hawaii. There needs to be a balance, and we talk about technology and how we're trying to catch up to everyone else. How do we maintain balance with that spirit of aloha that exists here, very minimally, and kind of spread that like fungus to everyone and make it contagious?
Good point. I think this will do it. This is the part of the. It's a paradox. It's not a contradiction. Technology is not a contradiction. It doesn't abstract us out of the idea. Look, the whole idea of aloha is especially for island people. Maybe we can understand it better. I say island people. I don't mean I don't mean chauvinistic about it. It's just Hawaii, Pacific Island, the island people anywhere. Have a little bit more understanding that the universe and the world around you is finite, and that you better get in tune with it. And if you don't, there's going to be a price to pay. And human beings are not ruling nature quite yet. And in this instance, the reason I say that's paradox is I am fully committed to the idea that if we really want to have aloha for one another, we have to have an up-to-date 21st century technological information exchange and transformed system. Because that enables us to do that. It's awfully tough to have aloha for somebody that's seen as a category over here and nobody, and the other person over here who has some responsibility. I'm just thinking about kids again. I don't mean to wear that example out. But you can't have aloha. You can't have that sense of community. You can't have that sense of helping. You can't have that sense of kokua. Given freely. You know, this is not a burden. You know, gee, you're a foster kid, aren't you? Well, let's see what we. You know, that isn't it. Or you're applying for your driver's license, or whatever it is. You're involved in invasive species data gathering for the College of Tropical Agriculture. You're involved in out of my office, the Office of Aging. I mean, there's a whole lot of things. What about people's Social Security? What about the connection to one of the reasons, right? Just dealing with my tooth today. Healthcare. I mean, because we have the world's most irrational healthcare system, based on let's see how much money we can make out of somebody else's grief and pain. Then we literally need this kind of system in order to have that exchange of capacity. The dentist today, the particular oral surgeon that I had to go to today, as opposed to my dentist, referenced by my dentist, the oral surgeon, should have had every record of the dentist that I have been going to since the 1970s, right? But instead it's, well, maybe it got sent over, I don't know. It should be ubiquitous. People's medical records should be ubiquitous. And if it is, then you can really practice aloha. That's my point. I think what possibilities are here for us is that we'll be able to care for one another, to know one another better, care for one another better, and have more confidence in ourselves as people of aloha if we are able to implement this plan that has evolved.
Thank you.
We're going to do a quick photo.
We're just taking a quick picture with the governor. You'll have a chance to do that. And then
These are known as holy pictures. Come.
Great chance to take me with the governor.
We do a group photo. That will be easier said than done.